and your iPad is up here.
If I could have everyone please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh. The delay, yeah.
Good evening all and welcome to the Monday, June 6, 2022 work session of the New Britain Township Board of Supervisors. Chair comments, the board met in executive session to discuss litigation, personnel, and land preservation. So we covered them all this evening. We did a good job. Next on the agenda is presentation items, informational only.
My favorite, none.
We have none. Next item on the agenda is subdivision land development projects. Again, informational only.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight we have, I see applicant for 409 West Butler Ave. And I just wanted to say that the township engineer and I met with the applicant about a week and a half ago, I think it was, to discuss the engineer review that was approved and adopted by the board for this application. And one of the issues that came about through that meeting was that the applicant is requesting additional waivers. Those waivers were forwarded to the board last week for your review. And it has to do with ambient lighting on the proposed trail, and additional lighting at the back of the property. So before I butcher it anymore, I am going to turn it over to the township engineer. And I know the applicant's representative, Mr. Riley, is here also if you're looking for additional information.
So I recommend you deny these waivers. No, this happens once in a while where we have granted approval, we have engineer meetings, and this is a bigger project, so more people are involved, but we try to work through the letter, the conditions, and the resolution approval letter. And because the residents in the back and the concern with lighting, you always have this with parking lots, trails, parks, whatever, and then adjacent to the residents, lighting becomes an issue. I actually recommend that they go this route. I think we're going to try to make it work, but I think Matt agreed, we all agreed that putting more lighting in the back to light up the trail next to the residents is probably not the best idea. You may disagree, and that's why we're here, but at least staff, I said, look, I would support a waiver. If not, they need to install them, and they prefer not to as well. So they've done many jobs like this. I have. It's just, based on my experience, you get complaints, even if we do low-level bollards, and it's really not, I think, a good idea to direct people to walk back in that area at night. It's not something that I think. Sometimes I have the chief even involved, which he wasn't this one, but they said, I don't want people loitering back there. It becomes a problem. It's not a main visible area. And so I recommend the first waiver that you support, whether you grant a waiver of the trail lighting. And then the other, while they were coming, they were trying to work out, the next one is a ratio of how bright it is, how dark it is, calculation. So it's called uniformity ratio. 4:1. They're real close to it. I said, since you're coming, I'd rather not add more lights to the back of that parking lot to brighten up even more because of the residents. So they followed our direction. I think the next day submitted the letter. I have no problems with it. I support it for this specific site on this project. Another site might not be the case, but on this one I do. So Kevin, I think the applicant is here, but I think I beat that to death enough for everybody.
I do have a question. I don't know who this is to, because it could be chief, it could be you, or it could be Mr. Riley. If we don't put the lighting back there, then we have a dark trail in the woods. Any concerns about that?
I don't, because it's not your property. And there's several other projects that have lighting, don't have lighting, or private property and not. You have trails that are not lit on your own property. You have, there's other properties that are lit in different situations. So you have the gamut I don't have any concerns. I don't know about the chief. He hasn't seen the project. I don't know if he even knows what.
Yeah, I have to look at it.
Well, it's not a question of private property because it's really not private property. It's a commercial residential development with a trail that invites people to use it. So I have a safety concern as to whether or not
But it's on private
It's
property.
on private.
it's
property.
on private property,
That's
but
right.
we're still in the approval. I'm just wondering or bringing up the point that is there a safety concern? Because it does, I would like to say no lighting because I would like to preserve as much non-lighting as possible. But then if we have lighting at the beginning of the trail that leads people back there and then they end up in the darkness, teenagers or other issues like that.
I don't know your other parks, whether that we talked about the shopping trail, because I asked you.
That's a nature trail, right? Which isn't lit at all, period.
Well, I asked Janine when this first came up before we met, before anybody showed up, tell me where, what's up, because I've, now been with the township every year, she has been on that stuff, and she goes, no, it's a case by case. We have some public property that's not lit, we have private property, we have a couple neighborhood woods that is lit, it's a bigger trail system, the way it's laid out, and it's lit with little bollards, little double bollards.
Mhm.
But, there's no right or wrong. If you don't want to grant the waiver, they will work out the bollards with the lights. Some people like to put it at the beginning and end, but then it's dark and, in between. What's that get you?
Can you remind me where the trail is? Is it around the back, around behind the stormwater?
Yes. It
So-
starts at one corner parking lot.
Yep, and then goes around the back,
Where are the
Yeah.
lights that you're seeking the waiver for?
around there.
So
Yeah.
we'll light the parking lot,
Mhm.
okay?
Yep.
Parking lot lights, we're not lighting the trail, we're parking lot lights. So, and then the light just kind of dies at the edge of this
Okay.
parking lot. If we were to light the trail, the lights would then hit into the neighbors, who'll be lighting up all the woodlands.
Mhm.
So we'll have ambient lighting in the parking lot, and we're asking for the waiver back here in the trail. The trail, we're actually going to site define during construction with Craig. This is the sort of the layout, but we're not gonna
Mhm.
survey it like this. We're gonna move it around the trees, whatever
Mhm.
existing trees are out there that we can save. That's what we're gonna do
Okay.
to put the trail. So
So if we had lights, it might encourage people to go back there.
And then keep going.
correct. And if you're
Yes.
not gonna just light up that trail, you're gonna light up all
Yeah.
those woodlands, and
Yeah.
you're gonna have light pollution flowing in neighbors' yards. Like Craig was saying, we've been doing this for years. We do not want light. You as a township do not want lights back there. And the
Yeah.
neighbors do not want lights either.
Yeah.
Just an oversight during the approval.
Yeah.
There's no other connection.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not connection to other trail systems. This is kind of a private property. Yes, public can use it. I have some other clients that don't put an easement over it. It's only for the residents there, just like a pocket park or a little play area. It's for that development, only for that community, and it's not for public access. Now, most ordinances say that's an option.
Well, as long as there's not lighting at the start, which would encourage people to go back
Right.
there, and then
Exactly.
they end up in the dark,
But,
knowing that they can do what
That's
they
right.
yeah,
want.
you're either lighting the whole thing or you're not. I did ask that to get Matt's opinion, staff's opinion, and we all agreed with that approach.
So then I'm going to ask, since you've got the picture up, the light coverage. So can you just one sentence explain what the
Uniformity ratio.
what the waiver is going to do?
We have some minor dark spots along this back parking lot.
Mhm.
When I say dark, it doesn't meet the 4:1 lighting ratio.
Mhm.
It's not dark. If you go to any of these parking lots, they're not dark. It's not
Yep.
like, somebody's gonna wait in the dark. Just doesn't meet the uniformity ratios.
Mhm.
We would have to add a whole bunch of lights along the rear of this parking lot, and then again, it would spill into the
That way.
lights.
Yep.
So that's all we're looking for is along the back.
Okay.
Yeah, now that I see it, it says it's private trail. It's not connecting to any other public trails. I don't see the need for lights. If it was connecting to public trails, then
Okay, I just wanted you to be aware and get your view on that.
Yes, I know, I had no Wi-Fi, so I couldn't see anything, so
You're good now?
we're good now. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment online?
There's not.
There is not. All right, so thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And it's in a position where the board will consider taking formal action in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think the action item would be you would amend your conditional final approval. Approving these waivers, so that I'll prepare that for the next meeting, and it will be amendment to all other conditions to apply.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the zoning hearing board applications.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got 4 applications that are on tonight's agenda, and I've asked the Township Solicitor to just quickly run through, give us a synopsis of these matters.
Thank you, Matt. First on our agenda is 41 Clearview Avenue. That's simply a request for a variance to allow a proposed porch to project into the required front yard setback of the property by more than 4 feet. The applicant's proposal is 8.9 feet. The solicitor's office does not see a reason to recommend that the township appear at that or impose it if the zoning hearing board decides in its wisdom to do that. That's certainly up to them. We don't think it's significant enough of an issue to recommend intervention or township attendance in that matter. The 428 Old Iron Hill Road layman matter, that is a zoning permit denial. The property owner has applied for a permit seeking a use for use and storage of 2 recreational vehicles. They are Airstream trailers on the property. As you know from your zoning ordinance, the storage of recreational vehicles is a secondary use to the primary use in that watershed district being a residential neighborhood. As of yet, it is an unimproved lot. There is no house. To my knowledge, there has not been a permit. There's not been a permit application for the construction of the residence. So this was denied by the zoning officer as a purely secondary use to which there is no attended primary use. Given the nature of it, it does seem, and I would recommend that the township participate in this one and that we attend for the hearing just to see how it's going to shake out. I know that Jeff had a conversation with Kelly McGowan from Obermeyer this afternoon about the matter, where they were going to look into it and potentially move it off of the upcoming zoning hearing board schedule to a later date, because I think they wanted to speak to some of the local residents about the issue before they took it before the zoning hearing board. That hasn't been determined yet as far as I know, but it would be my recommendation that the township at least appear at that, send the solicitor to monitor that matter and intervene as necessary.
Do you know what they're proposed? Are they proposing to live in the trailers?
That I don't believe the proposal would be to live in the trailers. It's not necessarily clear from the application. It's my belief, based on what I've read in the application, that it would be used sort of as a weekend place. I believe the owner of the property has a primary residence somewhere else. The zoning officer's denial, and in talking to the staff, there was a suggestion that there should be some plan put in place if this would ever be approved, that the town, the building permits would have to be applied for within a certain period of time, and the house built within a certain period of time. We're not there yet. For right now, what's been applied for is simply storing and using the 2 recreational vehicles, and they're Airstream trailers. They're very nice recreational vehicles, but that's not a primary use of the property.
If they're using them to live in, the question then becomes, they usually don't come with, there's no sewage facility, so on the
That's an
property.
excellent question. It was reported to the township that they were hooked up to both water and sewer. Ms. McGowan reported to us today that they are not hooked up to sewer. Obviously, we want them disconnected from everything unless and until they have permit approval, but that's the information as I currently have.
But there is a septic system on the property.
That's correct.
Yet there's no house.
No.
No
Yeah.
house.
I've seen a draft of the plot plan of the house they want to build with the pool cabana and the pool and the circular driveway. This is going to be a 2-year construction build for this house.
So they are planning
This
to
isn't a
build a
small
house.
little stick frame house. That that has not been filed, so I
Correct.
can't act on it. I think they originally were going, go ahead and file it and get that process, but it still doesn't establish principal use, I think, so that doesn't matter. But they do plan on, this is all temporary as far as the trailers. It's a nice view of the lake, so they go there, probably on the weekends, whenever they want to enjoy it right now until they build
I
their
didn't,
forever home, I guess.
I didn't think there was a water line up there, public water.
They drilled a well.
So well,
There's a well. I saw that on the plan said existing well, and Janine documents that and Ryan in the denial letter.
Okay.
The problem is the building code, Randy get involved because you can't connect to.
I believe that's what I saw too.
That's the crux.
The building code official saw that it was connected to the septic and he ordered that it be disconnected.
The other matters before you, at least on the agenda, are 502 New Galena Road. That is an application requesting variance, which states from the provision that states that no more than 20% of the woodlands located upon the lot should be cleared, altered, regraded, or cleared or built upon. The applicant would like to remove 2 trees for the construction of an in-ground pool and then replant the trees as part of construction. The original developer was permitted to exceed the 20% disturbance during subdivision created when the property was created, but the ordinance prohibits the removal of 20% of the woodlands, and there's no provisions in the ordinance for replanting. We are in possession of a subdivision plan. I believe Craig and Gene have reviewed that.
The trees are not in the conservation easement before anybody asks. That's my first question to Janine. So it's very simple, but I mean, they were hoping not to go to zoning hearing board, but they wanted the condition on the record plan to allow them to continuously clear as long as they replant. And I'm sure every resident would like that.
Yeah.
So they really pushed hard on the zoning office. I got involved a little bit. And I'm like, that was part of that condition and that construction. Any further construction was not contemplated as part of that application. But Sean, I did talk about this, but we're on the same page. So I'm sorry you only want to cut down a couple of trees, but that's beyond the zoning ordinance for woodland disturbance and beyond what you were allowed as part of that approval. This is the lot subdivision on New Galena next to the. I forget the name of that.
Yeah.
So the easement's in the back. They want to build a pool, closer to their home, so it's not impacting the easement.
Peggy Lane, I think it's Peggy Lane. Peggy Lane is the circle on there behind.
I don't think you should intervene on this.
Yeah, we're not recommending that we intervene or participate in this one. We just wanted to bring to your attention, let you know that it's out there. It is 2 trees, and the solicitor does agree with the engineer's office that it requires going to zoning, so that's where it should go.
Richard Drive is the cul-de-sac back to the easement.
Oh.
Okay.
And just as an FYI, came in this afternoon, that the applicant has requested a continuance to the July zoning hearing board meeting as the applicant will not be in town for the June meeting.
For this one.
So he wants a continuance anyway.
Yep.
These aren't specimen trees, are they?
Even if they were.
Okay.
And finally, the fourth matter is 141 Cheese Factory Road. That's an application for variance regarding the impervious surface ratio. The ordinance for that specific property listed is 12%. The existing impervious surface ratio on the property is just under 13.5. They're proposing to go to 17.42. This would be for the installation of a pavilion, hot tub pad, patio, etc. in the backyard of the property. Again, it's something that we wanted to bring to your attention, but we're not recommending intervention in this at this point. I suggest let it go through zoning as a normal.
So you're asking us just for,
I would ask the board to consider allowing intervention in the old Iron Hill Road property. Maybe after, if they do request a continuance, maybe the matter resolves or it gets further discussed. But I think it's something that the board should at least keep an eye on and that we should be monitoring more actively.
Board.
I'm in agreement.
yeah, sounds like a very individual issue, so yeah.
But we'd probably like to have a formal motion for it.
Yes, so,
Go ahead,
So-
Rick.
oh, hold on,
Mr. Chairman.
yes, go.
You said intervene, but you didn't say which way to intervene.
Well, thank you. That we should intervene to oppose the application.
Okay. So is there a motion?
Make a motion to oppose it.
I thought you had only asked to go and,
No, not.
No,
to-
yeah,
okay,
Motion would
You'd
be to
recommend.
send the solicitor.
Yes.
to oppose, okay.
My motion stands.
Yeah, we don't have a motion.
I thought Bill made a motion.
Bill made a
I mean,
motion.
But I mean, as a work session, don't we have to?
Well, it's coming
it
up on
can't
wait till the
16th.
next
It's
meeting,
next
right?
week, it
Yeah.
has to, it can't
Yeah.
wait. So,
I second the motion.
yeah, they
Any-
can't wait, it has to happen
any-
tonight.
Any
Yeah.
additional
Yeah.
information we need to know?
All right.
Given that this was already on the agenda as an item, we don't need to amend the agenda for an action item, do we? Since
I do not
it's-
believe we do.
It's already on there,
It,
so.
it was
And it
publicly
doesn't say-
declared that we
Yeah.
was going to be addressed as a zoning hearing board matter.
Good.
It's time sensitive.
Yes.
And also, it's not listed as an informational
Mhm.
item as
Oh,
well.
right.
So you are clear to take the vote.
So I have a first and second, and any other conversations, questions in regards to the motion at hand? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And that concludes then.
It concludes the zoning hearing board application. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the information items, departmental reports, administration.
Ooh, boy, here we go. Are you ready? I am really excited about the first thing. I'm excited about everything on my report tonight, but I'm really excited about the new website. I know the board has seen sneak peeks of the new website, and thank you for those who continue to give us feedback, which we are continuing to implement. I am excited to announce that we have started the process to transfer the website to turn it on. So that is a rather lengthy process, as we're finding out, since we are moving from one provider to another. There are some movements that need to happen with domain name servers and domain names and where they are and pointing it and all those sorts of things. So while we originally were hoping for a June 10th rollout, which is this Friday, it's looking more likely like it'll happen sometime next week. So pretty close to June 10th. We're kind of in a holding pattern until all of those transitions, once the domain name gets released from our current provider, and then it gets assigned to our new provider. Since we're moving to a new website technology, there's also a different way where I'm not going to get into the weeds, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we need to do to make that happen. Once it happens, I'd like to put out a press release. I think it's a really big move, a huge leap forward for this board, and I am excited to be a part of it. I just wanted to publicly thank Assistant Manager Mike Walsh for his time and dedication to it. It's just going to be the way forward. It's going to be a content management system. It's not going to be a static website, which is, I don't know if you're anything like me, I try to avoid our website at all costs because it's just awful. It's awful to navigate. You can't find anything. There's a lot of redundant information. This is a whole different way of thinking about websites. And I just want to thank the board for supporting us in this project. And this is just the beginning of making the public experience that much more accessible. And so thank you to the board. Thank you to Assistant Manager Mike Walsh for his work. And we're really excited about pushing that button. I know it's going to be anticlimactic. There's not going to be any ribbons to cut or anything, but we'll make something fun out of it. So thank you all. Next item that I'd like to talk about is the newsletter. And once again, I forgot the stack of newsletter. I'm so paper averse that I don't even think about bringing paper with me. Staff did meet with a representative from Hometown Press. They are out of Percy. They are a company that specializes in municipal newsletters. I believe there is such a thing. Currently, historically, we've been designing, publishing everything in-house with our newsletter, and at a significant cost. Is it about $10,000 a year that we budget for newsletters? Going to the Hometown Press method, all staff would need to be involved in is getting copy. That is asking department heads, looking at me, chief, providing copy for the newsletter. Hometown Press would take that material, they would design it, they would publish it, and then the only thing the township would be on the hook to pay for is postage at a significant cost savings. I estimate probably a savings of $7,000 a year. And it would alleviate a lot of staff time and the time it takes to design and develop and create this newsletter. So if you want to check them out, you can go to their website, Hometown Press, or if you would like some paper copies as an example to see what they look like, what residents would get, I've got a whole stack of different municipalities examples in the other room. We can tell them how we want it to look. We can design it the NBT way. There is no template. We can design it to make it look however we want it to look. My previous job, we used them for our newsletter, and I just have to say from a personal experience, they do a really good job. They're easy to work with, and it really does alleviate a lot of staff time in something that ends up taking a considerable amount of staff time to develop and create and publish a newsletter. So what I'm asking for the board to do is to consider making that, supporting our decision to move to the Hometown Press model of biannual newsletter.
Twice a year.
Twice a year. Do I have any resistance? Do I see anybody saying, no, we want to do it in-house?
When are your timeframes when you say biannual?
So that is open to discussion. What we were thinking is usually spring, summer, fall, winter. Those are the usual what other municipalities do. We had a discussion internally, and we feel that the twice a year is easier to manage. If you do it once a quarter, once a season, it becomes really difficult to find enough material to populate your newsletter. And you're just like, okay, anybody got anything else you want to put in? So we thought a good start was to eliminate 2 of those newsletters and do 2 seasonals.
The only burden that creates is that we have to set our calendar and adhere to it in a much more forward-thinking way than we typically do in terms of township sponsored events. Because, we
You'd
have
have to know much further in advance.
much further in advance, because if we're only doing it twice a year and we don't necessarily have all the information on, say, the Veterans Fair or the veteran,
Fall festival.
Fall Festival, thank you, the Veterans event in the fall. I'm trying to get it out.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a big event for the township. We want to make sure we capture that and that goes into the newsletter.
sure.
The other question I have is there a digital opt-in option
Yes.
for residents
Yes.
instead of mailing
Yes.
everybody
So,
one?
yes, every newsletter comes with a flippable PDF that we can then embed on the new township website.
No, but I mean, instead of mailing it to every resident, can a resident opt in to having it emailed to them instead of
So we
And then
haven't.
come off
snail
of the
mail
mail list.
The easy answer is yes, we could do that. We haven't explored that internally yet, but as part of the new website, a new feature is going to be an opt-in email distribution list. So this links into a much larger discussion, of course, as everything does, about our communications plan. How are we communicating to the taxpayers? We can't just all be digital. We have to have some sort of paper. We have to have digital. We have to have email. We have to have social media. We have to have a web presence. And how do you integrate and use each one of those elements to tell the bigger picture? There are people who don't have digital access though. So that's what the newsletter is designed for. And if we're thoughtful in how we develop a newsletter to point people to get, if we don't know what those dates are yet when we put together a print, there's a way to develop it in such a way that communicates on where you can get that information.
Yeah.
You want to promote it and say, yes, usually such and such festival is held on such and such a time. But for the most up-to-date information, please check the township website or stop by the township.
You can
Other
always,
municipalities do it, right? So it's not
there-
like,
you can always, it'd be nice to have it ahead of time, put it in the newsletter, but we still use other ways of the board. We have Facebook, we have
The website.
other things. But I think one of the first articles in our newsletter should be, hey, we'd like to develop an email chain list of residents, totally voluntary. If you would like to get, immediate notification of snow emergencies or other emergencies, please fill this out or set up,
Yeah.
set up an email box that's gonna get all of these emails and,
That's going to be a showcase of the new website. And
yes.
so the first newsletter is going to be showcasing all of the additional features of that website. And so that email distribution list, there's a link on the homepage, a little email icon, you tap on it, put in all of your information.
So we can direct them to
Yes.
that, to do that.
It could be, now, if we talk about nuts and bolts with cross-referencing those who opt out for a paper distribution of the newsletter, that can get a little laborious because we don't have a really good internal method to cross-reference our mailing list, hard copy mailing list versus those that say, hey, opt out, I only want digital. We don't have that capability yet.
Because it's sent to the current resident of,
Correct.
Right,
not
It's
to
an
a
every
person.
door.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's probably less expensive to just do every door than to be picking some out.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay,
get there, though. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
so back to the biannual versus quarterly.
I mean, most of
Who's
our
gonna first
events
planning ahead?
have a date. We pick the
Okay.
date at the beginning of the year.
Mhm.
And most of our events have very recurring themes each year.
Mhm.
So you can just do, Santa House is going to be at this time. You know those informations. What's the time frame? It's always going to have a food drop. I mean, you give them the general flavor of the thing. And if there's any more information, then they can be sent to the website.
Or they'll just call the offices.
Or call the offices
Right.
if they don't have the
Stop in
website.
Or whatever,
So,
but that's
Okay.
part of it, yeah.
It's very generational. Anyone
Mhm.
under 40 is never gonna make a telephone call.
Yeah.
Maybe under 50. It's personal.
Yeah.
Anymore, yeah, it's too personal to actually talk to another human being on the phone.
I think twice a year is good.
Yeah.
'Cause then,
At least start with that.
Yeah.
You know, I think it would be a right fit for staff. I think it would be the right amount of staff time. And you know, if it doesn't work after the first year, let's revisit it and we can reevaluate. You know, there's, this is, Hometown Press does not lock you
So it's not a
into,
long-term
Nope.
contract with them.
it's, I mean, they prefer a year, you know, that's what
Right.
they prefer because they're investing advertising dollars. And the other benefit is that they pay for the newsletter by selling advertising dollars to New Britain Township businesses. So it's specific to New Britain Township as well. And so they put a lot of time and effort into that. And they like it to be at least 2 issues because that's how they sell their advertising. So that's the trade-off you get, is that there's going to be advertising and ads in the newsletter instead of being an advertisement-free newsletter.
I
Take a
guess,
look at the.
I guess my one concern is typically we've used the newsletter to also mention the tax deadlines. And use that for the spring mailing of the county township bills as well as then the July mailing of the school. But with the new website, hopefully that could be on the website. And notation can be in the newsletter about, these are your key deadlines and the like.
I'm pretty confident that we could put something in there that would address those concerns.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think it's a
I
good
think
thing.
it's a good idea.
Okay.
Free up our staff.
Mhm.
I think it would be much more eye-catching to the residents. I'm not sure with the one that we have now that doesn't have nice big bold colors, it just gets slipped away.
And there tends to be a lot of fill
Yes.
Yeah.
and that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just take some time. I'll get the examples for you. We can see
Actually,
it, feel it.
got another question. I was just looking at it online. So I know that we have stormwater management
Yes.
parts in there. That will still be
Yes.
in there and it will still
We
meet
can
our,
put anything we want in this newsletter.
okay.
Is
We
there a
can fill it.
limit to, is there a limit to the size of it? Like how many pages?
It's a ridiculous limit.
Okay.
Like we'll never get, I think it's like what,
Yeah.
64 pages or something. like
I
that.
mean,
We'll never
I'm
get-
not suggesting we need to go
Yeah.
anywhere near that, but.
Well, I just looked at a couple and they were like 32 pages long.
Right.
And it was some with really big ads and things, but the stuff that was from the township pulled out, you could see
Mhm.
it, and it was, you know, some of the events, half a page was to an event, so hopefully that will, you know, it will bring more people to the township as well as to our businesses.
That's good.
Greg, your facial expressions are really throwing me for a loop here.
It's cost saving.
No, it's just,
We could try it for a year. If you don't
I
like it.
just,
go
yeah,
back.
I just, it's funny that we talk about this and about going to just doing it twice a year and making sure information is out there and whatnot, but there's a few instances earlier this year where residents of mine in my community were wondering when township events were happening. And I said, well, they used to be in the newsletter. And they said, well, we don't get a newsletter anymore. It went from like every other month to once a quarter to now we haven't seen one in quite a while. So it's I just hope we're not underestimating
The importance.
the importance of it. We're making an assumption that everyone wants to go to a website, that they don't
No,
want
no,
a
no,
physical
this
piece
is-
of paper.
This is gonna be
But-
paper.
I know, but only twice a year. You're getting it in March and October. We used to get it every 3 months.
Which we still do. So they should be still getting it. I get it every 3 months.
We haven't had a newsletter in a while. You haven't been getting it every 3 months.
There
So-
hasn't been a newsletter. No, there hasn't.
No,
been.
there has not.
That's not
So
There's been one.
Okay.
here's
There's
the
been
one.
one.
So I don't
So
know.
we have the option, we can do one every month if you want.
I don't know. I don't want to do one every month. I just,
But
this,
we-
Do we have the
this.
content to fill one
So there's
every
content
quarter?
and then there's the cost of postage.
Yes, I know. And that's what I'm fighting is, like my community is 55 and older, but they skew a little even older than that. And they don't go to a website to find out information. They expect to get it, in the newspaper, in a newsletter or this, that, the other thing. So that's my hang up. It's a everyday involvement with people that aren't necessarily interested in going to a website to find out information. They like to get it and put it on their fridge still. So that's my only thing is
But if they
where,
get if they get the newsletter twice a year and it has all the information in it that it would have had 4
as
times a
long
year.
as we stay proactive
Yeah.
with making sure we know what we're doing and when we're doing it.
Michael, did you have a comment
Yes.
or you just?
So I just want to make a comment to Cynthia's point. For instance, the Fall Festival is always the second to last Saturday of September
Right.
every year.
Right.
So when we start the year, most of our events are planned this way. The shred event is always the first weekend in May.
Right.
The bingo is always the
No,
second to last
in
Friday in
advance.
April. These events have standardized times when we do it. So as a staff, July 4th is on July 4th.
Right.
We should know those dates.
Sometimes.
We know the times.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, unless it's a
Sometimes
Sunday
once.
or.
But
Right.
But we
we should
know
know
that.
those dates and we already know the time.
Right.
To Cynthia's point, we can get that main piece of information can always be in that issue.
And
So-
of course, the community is always able to put out their own little newsletter if they want to, with containing township information.
I was also gonna ask if you had a common place too.
Post
Out
things.
there, we can always supply some flyers
yeah,
for you to
yeah.
post too for all the events too.
So I am not a hand wringer by nature.
Yeah.
I'm confident that we can develop a newsletter that would be effective and cost effective and effective, that would be able to communicate those core things. It might be bumpy at first, but I think that, it will enable us to be a lot more responsive than we have been able to be.
Mhm.
I hear your concerns. I hear it. And I think those are the things that the staff has already considered and we'll make sure that we pay attention to moving forward.
I just don't want to lose a section of our populace. So that's
Oh, yeah,
my,
it's a large section. of the
yeah, it's a
populace.
large
That-
section
But
of
it's not
populace.
just its community. I mean,
Agreed.
New Britain Township has approximately 60% of the residents are
Yep.
plus 50.
Yep.
So we're getting more new developments coming in that don't have younger people in it, but the vast majority of our residents are now plus 50. So we have to make sure that we don't lose them in the transition.
Amen. I am, while I am paper averse by nature, there's no reason to eliminate a newsletter because it touches those folks who don't have, are not digitally connected. So it
Yeah.
does still play a role. I think the hierarchy of that role, we need to reevaluate it and see where it links into the overall communications plan.
Mhm.
I don't believe it is as important as it used to be.
No, it's
But
not.
it does still play an effective role in
There's
the
there's
overall
still
communication.
people, there is still a significant portion of the population that either choose not to involve themselves with computers and email, or can't afford a computer, or just don't know, want to deal with learning how to use it. So it's something I keep in mind, and something that people do tend to lose sight of, because, but it is still part of the population. So I think paper will always be important.
Yeah,
I hold it in high regard, to tell you the truth.
I'm the same person that asked you that there's gonna be an opt-out to be emailed the newsletter.
Okay.
So obviously I'm of the two minds.
Mhm.
You know, there's my generational viewpoint of it, but I'm also want to be cognizant of that there's more than just myself that I
I
should
hear
be
you.
concerned with. So, okay.
Is the board comfortable with staff moving forward with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
very good. Thank you. Number 3, August Board of Supervisors meeting dates. As we were examining the meeting dates for August, we noticed that the first meeting in August is the week after the last meeting in July. This year, we are blessed with an extra week in August. So therefore, we could actually reschedule the August meetings to the 2nd and 4th Mondays, just like July. July's we had to reschedule to the 2nd and 4th due to the 4th of July holiday, which is why we have this issue in August. If we move those meeting dates to the 2nd and 4th Monday of August, we would then still have 2 weeks between the business meeting in August and the next business meeting cycle in September. There's option 1. Option 2 would be typically, and this makes both of these issues go away. Historically, we've canceled the first work session meeting of July and August. If we do that, there's no reason for us then to reschedule the meeting dates in August. Staff's recommendation would be to cancel the first meeting in July and the work session meeting in August. And we would be prepared to discuss the matters. It would be a combined meeting in both July and August, and are confident that we would be able to disseminate any and all information to the board in a timely manner to support that.
So July 18th and August 15th,
July
July
11th.
1st,
11th.
July 11th.
July 11th. Oh, well, okay.
Cancel 11th.
We're canceling the 11th and keeping the 25th. Okay.
Right.
And then canceling the 1st and keeping the 15th.
Correct.
Okay.
And
So
that-
we would not have to re-advertise. We would keep it as is. We're just canceling meetings instead of re-advertising and rescheduling.
And that would work well with any zoning hearing board applications and all that sort of stuff.
On 7:25 and 8:15. What I heard.
Mood stay was
Oh,
7:25.
wait a second.
What is
When is the zoning hearing board meeting in July?
That is on the 21st.
Okay, so we are, no,
So-
we're not okay.
We'd have to,
We'd have to
know
address
everything
any
by the
of that in
20th.
June.
Or we could cancel the 25th and keep the 11th if you want to have the meeting before the zoning hearing board. We can keep the first meetings of the month. We're easy. We can do one or the other. So that first meeting in
When's
July,
the August zoning hearing?
Any
board meeting?
issues, Solicitor, with,
Well, in the past with, I don't have the issue with
18th would be in August, so there's no
Okay.
issue in August.
As long as they both been advertised, it doesn't matter which one they cancel.
Okay.
I will not be here on the first.
You can have like, you can have a shed variant, you can have some really small variants, not be an issue. We had a couple tonight, big ones, but that's not typical. In the past, in other municipalities, if this happens, the manager just sends out and gets feedback individually on those cases, and then the three of us discuss, how to handle it, but
It can be done without a formal meeting. If you prefer a formal meeting to authorize the township to take a position in the zoning hearing board, then you need to do it. You need to cancel the ones that come after the zoning hearing board to give us enough lead time to go in. So if you want to do it that way, it would make sense, as Matt was talking, to cancel the 25th of July and keep the 11th of July.
Yes. And then August, we could cancel the 1st because the 15th is before the next zoning hearing board on the 18th of August.
Yeah, that would work.
so 7-11.
That's consensus, 7-11 and 8:15.
To keep.
Works for me.
So keep 7-11 and 8:15.
Yes.
Now I'll only throw one monkey wrench into it.
You're not gonna be here for
No,
that. No.
I'm always here. Budget?
Yeah.
When we going to start
To
discussing
be
it.
clear, then the board would be canceling the scheduled meeting on July the 25th and canceling the scheduled meeting on August the 1st.
Correct.
Correct.
When are we going to start discussing budget?
Usually August, September. So there might be an initial conversation at that August meeting.
Okay. I just don't want to see us forcing it too much into the,
Well, we're not technically going to be approving the capital plan until the end of July anyway, so it's gonna take a while for that then to be
Mhm.
incorporated into the budget for the boards.
It's all coming together.
Yeah, so we could, our
Well, you're
first
good.
meeting in September is the 12th, correct? And is that a
Yes.
daytime work session?
Yeah, September is 10 a.m.
That's a daytime work session,
Yep.
so that'll be our
Which is
budget.
typically budget
Yeah.
number one discussion. I usually start having staff level meetings about the budget in August to prepare for a board level discussion in September.
Residents will be able to see a timeline of our budget procedure on the new website.
Right.
Plug, shameless plug.
Yeah. Okay, we should probably have an official motion to authorize the canceling of July 25th and August 1st.
Want to put on the next agenda?
Oh, we could do that in 2 weeks. Yeah, forget that.
That's
Strike
probably
that.
the better way to do it, because then you can also give a people notice.
Perfect.
Yep.
Forget I said that.
Because these are information items only anyway.
Yep. I thought that I know, I got all excited. My mistake.
We'll get you there.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Before I get into the plan for the future update regarding facilities, there's one additional thing I'd like to discuss with the board that was not on the agenda as a listed item, but it's still informational only. And this has to do with the 2022 paving plan. The 2022 paving plan includes 4 roads that do not include curbs and sidewalks. If you remember during last year's budget making process, we allocated funds in this year's budget for a road pavement assessment program. I was this close to getting it, the data behind it, when my trusty laptop decided to act up on me. And I can't get that software anymore. And so I'm still struggling to get back up to speed where I was. I'm hoping to prioritize that in the next month to get the GIS software that I need to create a road centerline file that I can then provide to a technology firm that will develop an app for us to drive every single road that the township is responsible for and assess its surface condition, that we can then use internally to develop a township-wide pavement plan where residents can be able to type in their address and see where their road falls on the expected replacement, including curbs and sidewalks. And so, as I said earlier, this year's suggested improvements do not include curbs and sidewalks. That step in and of itself is a highly intensive staff-involved process. Curbs and sidewalk management, managing different properties with those construction processes, and we're just not at the point where we can respond to that right now. And given that we are under the gun with the paving season upon us already, we felt that there was not sufficient time to notify residents along roads with curbs and sidewalks that would need to make significant investments in those curbs and sidewalks, and want to wait and give them at least a year's worth of notification that this is coming so they can prepare financially. Assistant Manager Walsh has been working on this today, and I am going to let him take us on home to talk about more of the details of the proposed road paving program. The road paving program that he's going to discuss tonight is only those that are funded through the liquid fuels dollars. This is not the additional plan that the board authorized, the $100,000 additional in this year's budget for in-house road paving. We're still developing a hierarchy of those roads to be addressed. Nothing further, Mr. Walsh.
So, working with Ryan Crespin, he has picked out four roads to be redone: Cedar Hill Road, Schoolhouse Road, and they're going to do Schoolhouse from the bridge on the other side of the train tracks to the curved area on just past Cedar Hill where the Colebrook development did all their improvements. So they're going to stop at those improvements. So that's the general vicinity for the board to understand where that lies on Schoolhouse Road. And then the other roads that Mr. Crespin has picked out is Naomi Lane and Fairview Road. It comes as a cost estimate to approximately $411,000. We currently, at the time passing the budget, had $441,000 in the budget from liquid fuels to be able to fund this. So it's underneath it. I will bring up, as we all know, gas prices are outstanding. We're going to ask for authorization to advertise. We will then have to see what these prices come in at. It is kind of astronomical right now with the cost of gas. So we will then have to have another conversation once staff is able to see what those prices come in at. So the board was forwarded all this stuff earlier this afternoon, and it will be, like I said, up for authorization for advertisement at the June meeting on June 20th. That's all I have.
Are there any questions from the board regarding the liquid fuels program for this 2022?
So what was the criteria other than no sidewalks and no curbing?
So this is what the road paving plan is going to be designed to help make us, to position ourselves to make more objective decisions.
I get that, but
Right now, this is based
this
upon
one-
institutional knowledge
Okay,
of our public works superintendent, whose instincts I trust.
okay,
This is him driving around on every road and knowing,
Mhm.
keeping a catalog in his head of which roads are in the worst shape right now. So while I want us to migrate away from that methodology in the near future, to look at a more weighted, objective ranking of roads that need to be repaved,
yeah.
this is following the standard practice of years past. The other option is to do nothing, and the board can defer, say, let's wait until that road paving program gets developed and take a year off, and then we'll have that much more money for next year and have a grander plan.
As someone who rides a bike on Schoolhouse from time to time, that needs to be done.
Amen. So that was gonna be my recommendation as well.
The other way of looking at it is we keep it in deplorable condition, then people might slow down. But I guess
Yeah.
that's not the way we can look at it.
No.
Can we put speed bumps in on Schoolhouse?
No,
So there's a value in repaving, right? We need to continue moving forward. There is a value in that. I don't recommend deferring paving this year. I don't think that would be a smart move, especially as I travel on Schoolhouse Road, and it's almost impossible, just like Butler Ave, to avoid the potholes just before the railroad tracks.
When is PennDOT supposed to redo
It is
202?
in this year's paving plan,
Okay,
so this year, this summer.
So they'll do it the day after school starts.
Yeah, right.
yeah, probably.
Yeah,
With St. Jude right there.
You better
the
get
weekend after
prepared
Thanksgiving.
for the inevitable cut through the neighborhoods at 80 miles an hour that will occur once they start closing down roads and detouring people through Brittany Farms.
Brittany Farms, yes.
Do we have these 4 roads put in a hierarchy as well in case those bids come in astronomically? That's where I'm tossing up.
Yeah.
It's like, do we really want to spend twice as much money paving these roads or any road than if we wait a year and we could get more done for the same amount of money?
Well, liquid fuels is a fund that is replenished from somewhere else.
But it's still $1. Well, if $1 only does a 500 feet
Depending what
this
the-
year,
The bid
it
comes
could
in.
do a mile next year. Do you know what I mean? It's
Or
like,
it could do 2 miles next year.
yeah. But see,
I
that's-
mean, it
could do
could be
a quarter
50
of a mile
feet.
next year.
Yeah.
You know, the way the
it
fuel
could do
prices,
opposite.
it
Yeah,
could go the other way as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Diesel just keeps getting
more and more expensive.
worse
Yeah.
and worse.
So
Craig has a statement.
No, I wanna, because I know that you're looking at, as you wait, the cost goes up.
Mhm.
Most of other municipalities, we do this at the end of the year, we do the road program, and that's what we do during December, and then we go out to bid in January, and that's how you're gonna get them. So when he gets his plan ready to go, this is the worst time to be.
I don't want to be waiting until June next year. to
Yeah.
do
Here's
it.
But here's the bigger, because we talked to all the big, I mean, you're not gonna get the big JDMs coming in here and pay, because they want the 20-mile road programs, the 10-mile programs. You're going 4 roads.
Yeah.
That probably doesn't even maybe total, what's the mileage on
it was,
it? But here's the point,
Yeah.
those contractors are where you get the small contractor, and that drives the price up, and then you do it in the summer when they all schedule, I've met with all of them over the years, they get it lined up in January, February, as soon as the weather breaks, they hit all the big townships. It's always been an issue with the more rural townships, but to save money, get out earlier and do more at one time, to be honest with you. You put out a bigger road program, you're gonna attract more people to bid. The smaller we do, I just see less competition, and the later we forget it.
The other issue is we may not find anyone who's interested in doing it at
That's why I
this
was
point of the
asking, I
year.
asked them, even if you're doing it in-house or if you're bidding it out, because, you know, you'll have to see, it's not.
Yeah,
it's-
I mean,
it means
it's-
Yeah.
There's
There's
interest
no
in their
harm in
table because a
asking
lot of
for
people-
bids.
A lot of paving
Okay.
companies already have their
That
staff
was-
committed to certain.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
But they might find a filler job, like, so they have a big job and then you get the milling and striping and they run, or like in other townships will do the concrete work and then they'll trail behind, they'll mill, do concrete, go back and pave. They might look for a smaller job to fill in, so you never know. though.
And to conclude, that's why I said we're gonna authorize, that's the whole plan, and we have to see what the bids come in at, and then
Then we
Then
make
if we get the bids back and me and Ryan need to sit down again and have a conversation, which ones do you prioritize? That's when we'll have it.
and then we have
Right,
another
to your
chance to
point, and
accept
then-
or decline.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we'll bring that information back to the board for you to either accept, decline, we'll obviously read your bids so that it can be pieced out.
Yeah, if they come in at $800,000 for
Yeah.
$400,000 worth of work, I think we'll be deferring.
That's what we've done in the past, is to sign one road as the base and everything else
Detention
alternates. That
basin was
way
on
the
that we
board
were
has the
doing.
ability to piecemeal
Marshall Circle.
everything.
That road was
So we'll
deployed.
continue to do that
But it's
process.
got
Right.
curbs and
Gotcha.
sidewalks. You have to redo curbs and sidewalks. on top of that. Yeah, because I did look at it, it was anywhere around 2.5 miles for all those
Schoolhouse.
put
Do
together.
we have to use
Nail
the liquid
line.
fuels that we get in any
Fair.
particular year by the end of the year?
No.
No, okay.
No,
You don't have to use the road.
No,
no.
no, you don't. There's other approved, there's a specific approved list of things that you can
Thanks, Jim.
use to fund. It's just historically, we have used
Yeah.
that fund to fully fund our road paving. Personally, honestly, my first year here last year, when I went and sat down with our public works superintendent, I was, I don't know what the right word was. Surprised is an understatement on how little we invest in repaving on an annual basis. The amount of roads that we have, 70 linear miles of roads, centerline miles of roads. We're only paving $300,000 to $400,000 worth a year. It's not, if you do the math, how much that gets you, 2 miles, 2.5
Yeah.
miles
A
a
year.
year. And how long do roads last? 20?
It depends.
Yes, there we go.
There's so many different. there's so many variables.
Attorney crap.
But, if do some simple math, we're never gonna be able to get ahead of it. And so this pavement plan is a way for us to try to better manage the investment of those dollars to make those lane miles that much more effective.
If I could add, sometimes, maybe that's going this direction, but you also look at, when do you want to turn over the whole township? At what point? Because honestly, that's what's the pressure lately. Why
Yeah.
his reaction is you already paid, because I'm used to it here, but other places, they want every 5 years, every road to be paved, no matter how big. I mean, we're talking, and the bigger the townships, the more roads, the more liquid fuels, but that's where they pull in the ARPA money, or they pull in funds from developers. They want a capital improvement plan, and any waivers of road improvements, that money goes into that. That's a whole nother thing that we need to discuss, but and sometimes they do every other year a large program where they track the larger paver that comes in with better prices. The concrete work is expensive too. Don't be shit.
Yeah, the prices of concrete are even more.
Yes.
But the design nowadays with ADA, between we have to survey every ramp, we then design it, and then the construction, you're talking $6,000-7,000 a ramp right now.
So that is everybody's driveway and
No, no,
everybody.
no, no.
You're talking about 88
Right.
ramps.
Oh, you mean, but I mean, when you talk about curbing and stuff, that's what I thought you
You
were
know,
talking
other
about.
towns don't do the curb, so I have some large townships that do not do curb, and no one likes, no resident likes to get the letter saying fix your curb.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare, it always is, but the ramps, you gotta do the ramps, and then come in and pay afterwards. The concrete work is very expensive, so you'll need that, those years, you're gonna have additional funds to do
So
that.
the paving plan not just looks at the repaving of a road, but will take into consideration curbs and sidewalks. So those roads that have curbs and sidewalks that are needed, and it'll be an add-on to it to get a better cost of, it's not just gonna be $400,000 worth of asphalt that we're throwing down on roads. It's gonna be, well, we've got $400,000 this year. We need X amount of asphalt, X amount of concrete, X amount of design engineering for ADA ramps. The amount of road center line starts to shrink.
Yeah, we do about 10, I have numbers, historic numbers of every township where it's a big chunk. We do $1 million road program, and engineering costs and inspection and all that is too big to handle in-house. Is $250,000 for design and all that. The other thing you need to coordinate is utilities, so.
Right.
So we handle all that, where I have to go coordinate all they put it all on us, well, that's costs, then either you do it internally and have more, have the staff do it, which you don't have the staff, or we coordinate all the utilities, especially water, your road authority. What projects do you have planned in the next 5 years, 3 years, and then you don't want to go pave a road and then John Schmidt comes and gives a presentation on new pump station force main over by Newport News, right? That happens all the time, and everybody looks foolish on both authority and the board, why you guys didn't coordinate, talk to each other, so.
And so having a plan that's developed and published and accessible, we can circulate that and coordinate, it puts the tools in our hands to be able to have those conversations with the utilities, say, hey, look, here's our plan for the next 5 years. Do you have, what's your plan? Oh, we're actually doing this road over here. Oh, maybe we need to reconsider and move it up because they're going to be doing this road at this time.
It happens every year.
Yep.
If you do it right,
Yep.
then that's good coordination, but we shift things around where development comes in, big development, say High Point, all of a sudden, like, hey, let's not touch this part of schoolhouse, because we're gonna have construction vehicles go over our new road, and, 1 year later, 6 months later, so that's another.
So that's the method to that madness.
Gotcha.
Trying to objectify it, give us more measurable data points that we can more effectively manage the investment of public money.
Gotcha.
Last thing I'd like to talk about briefly this evening is my plan for the future, quote unquote, update. I discussed this with the board last meeting. This is I'm calling it the plan for the future is an implementation plan of recommendations that I'm going to be making to the board for us to start talking about where do we move forward from this point onward as a township. It's rooted in my first year's worth of observations and staff interactions. And if you recall, I introduced this report in such a way that organizes it in 4 core areas: facilities, staff, budget, and policy. If you remember from my introduction that I made to the board 2 weeks ago, all 4 of those things are interconnected. If you remember that graph, they're all interconnected. It's difficult for me to have a conversation about facilities that isn't related to staff, that isn't related to funding, that isn't related to policy. I can't have a conversation about staff that isn't related to facilities, budget, policy, right? It's all interconnected. Since we're talking about highly complicated scenarios, I think Craig said it the best a couple of weeks ago. You know, I was like, oh, it's like an onion. The more you peel back the onion. Craig's like, no, you've got a bag of onions, right? Yeah, that's totally it. Every onion that I continue to peel back, there's just more layers to it, more layers to it, more layers to it. And so this is an approach that I'm taking to help guide sound decision-making, policy, direction setting for the board. Staff works at the behest of the board. The board needs data, information to be in a position to best make good decisions. I believe in that. That is what good government is. I don't want to, spin wheels and just keep talking about things. I want to give more philosophical guidance to the board, which will then hopefully encourage the board to guide me and my staff to get you more data to make even better decisions. So I'm not intending to have a detailed discussion this evening about our facilities. I forwarded the 1-sheeter to the board this afternoon. I did not expect you to come prepared to have an in-depth conversation about it. I believe that it is important that we have a discussion in the public arena as well about this, since it's all township resident related. It's all of our money. And so it's important to have this conversation in public. Facilities, in my definition, is everything that we see here: the buildings, the bricks and mortar, all of the buildings that are owned by the township. In the interest of this report, to quantify it in such a way that's digestible, I only looked at those facilities that where staff uses for most of day-to-day operations. We're not looking at the old snack shop down in North Branch Park. Yeah, it's a facility, the township owns it, but it's not a core facility where day-to-day operations are occurring. I looked at this building, the township building, I looked at the Public Works building, and I looked at the Parks and Rec building, which is the building out that way. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, I never even considered that as a building, more as a shed.
But it is. We've got 2 full-time staff people that use that as a base of operations, daily operations. And so that is something where the township employees are interacting. So we need to be cognizant of what they are doing there. The long and the short of it is that most of the efforts are focusing on this building. This building was built in the early 90s, 1991. It is now getting to that point where it's reaching its useful life, and it was designed in an era that does not play well with current technology. And so it's a challenge for staff to become a more efficient and modern operation given the surroundings that we have. I'm not, don't interpret this as me, Matt. Well, Matt West is saying that we need a new building. No, I don't know what we need. And I am not a design professional. All I know is that this building is dysfunctional. That's all I know. I know that the office spaces that we have are dysfunctional. It's not best designed for current modern operating systems. This room is dysfunctional. Have any of you out in the public tried to come here and see a presentation? Case in point today, we had a presentation with someone who was an applicant. Did you see what he was talking about? Right. So it's not conducive to this type of interaction. And that's important. This is the public arena. That level of interaction is important. Look around. This building is not, this room specifically is not designed to have that level of conversation with residents. And that's a disservice to the residents, right? I feel strongly about this. And It really is, I take this really seriously, that we work at the behest of the taxpayers. And so that's the lens through which I'm making these assessments. I am not getting into the details of, oh, we need to change this. I'm not a design professional. I know the system is dysfunctional. I know it's not functioning the way it needs to function. So we've got the sticks and stones, the bricks and mortar. I've also defined facilities as those things that staff, full-time employees need to do their jobs efficiently, whether that is workspace, office furniture, those sorts of things, and the tools that we need to do our jobs. All of those things I've defined as facilities. If we don't have strong facilities, we as a staff cannot work in the most efficient manner, therefore not representing the board's wishes and the board's vision. So this is a philosophical exercise that we're just getting started. There are details that we need to discuss about what that means, about what it means for the future. We've got a couple of other things moving, namely the capital plan, the capital improvement plan. This capital improvement plan that we've been developing is a comprehensive capital improvement plan. It is detailed. And I'm really excited about it. I know, nerd alert, excited about a capital improvement plan, planning document, right? But these types of foundational documents are important for successful municipal government operations. As you'll see when we talk later in a month or two about the funding aspect of this plan, I'm often left flat-footed. I call it waving at boats. There I am waving at another funding boat. There goes the grant boat, right? Because I am not positioned in a way where I can successfully apply and get grant money because we don't have any foundational reports that a grantor will look at and say, hey, they've got their act together. They've identified their needs. Yeah, let's give them money. Great. I don't have those documents. This exercise is to shed light on that. I am not meaning to throw shade on what has been done. This is forward thinking. I am a forward thinking person. I need action, I need direction, and I need a vision from this board. And I want to work with you to develop that for the future of this township. And so this is the first crack at it. Let's talk about the facilities. So I've given you a lot to think about. I'm going to continue to give you a lot to think about, especially as we talk about staffing levels and types of staff. And talk about the policy, all of our policies, the laws that we use to manage day-to-day operations. And finally, the funding aspect of it. And I expect what I have in my head, there will be a public presentation that will be a culminating event to talk about the summary of everything that we've discussed in each one of these sections. I don't anticipate this to be thou shalt do this right now. It's more upper level philosophical direction setting. And so this document that I gave the board today, it included 3 recommendations to you. I'll read them. Getting all worked up, just breaking a sweat. First things first, first recommendation is for the board to consider hiring a design professional to evaluate the existing conditions of the township building, this building here. This evaluation should be a complete assessment of existing exterior conditions, interior spaces and systems, and should prioritize each item along with an estimated cost to replace or repair. In addition to exterior conditions, an emphasis should be placed on reviewing the police department space in support of the future goal of achieving accreditation. You've all been to the police department. You've seen the current state of the police department. It needs help. The structure itself, not the organization. Just to be clear.
No shade on chief.
Just to be clear. Just to be clear.
People versus facilities.
Yes.
We're talking about
about
facilities. This report would provide the board with additional information related to possible future capital investments and would be useful and be used in coordination with the township's capital investment plan. I can't make a recommendation to you of what needs to be done. I am not that design professional. Nor can I make a recommendation of how we should invest money. we need more data. The board needs more data. You need to be able to say, look, what might look bad to you or me might not actually be bad. Maybe it isn't. But I am not that professional to say yes or no. So that's my recommendation one. Number two is consider investing in a redesign of admin staff in public spaces. This space here, admin staff in their space. Working with an interior designer, the township would be provided a plan and estimated cost to redesign the working areas for admin staff, as well as the 2 board meeting rooms, this room and the room there. The result will be more efficient use of space that would potentially result in an increased space for possible future employees, as well as increased interactions with residents in this room. Most of the investment would be in the form of office furniture that would be adaptable for current and or future needs. Office furniture today is much more modular. It's not specific and designed for specific spaces. You could use it in any space that you're looking for. Number 3, continue to support investments in technology to help modernize township business practices, such as soft spot, geographic information systems, updated phone systems, and consolidated computer networks. Those are my 3 recommendations that I would like the board to consider and have more conversations with me one-on-one in the next couple of weeks. I designed this in a way for us to have a more informed discussion and a more detailed discussion about what this means. And I'm looking forward to going down this path, walking down this path with you all. And I've talked a lot tonight. I'm starting to break sweat, masking it and everything, but I look forward to having continued conversations about this.
All right. Thank you,
Feedback,
Matt.
questions?
Thank you.
Well, I'm in support. I think we all realize the drawbacks of the current building. Certainly the police department. And I'm for one behind looking into it. I believe a space planner would be a reasonable investment, depending on what numbers we get in, of course. And perhaps we need 2 separate planners, one for police and one for administration.
Which is recommendation 1 and number 2.
Okay.
They're separate.
So,
Agreed. I support that. In my head, 2 separate things. Yep.
and although space is important, we have certain functional issues with just gutter systems, et cetera, that really
Yes.
need to be addressed.
Yes.
So,
Hence the Folgers, coffee
Can-
jar in Mike's office.
so I am behind. Of course, we have to talk about the details, but
Yes.
I'm behind doing that.
I think this is the digest and discussion.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, don't need, not looking for, yes, do it.
Yeah.
It's food for thought. And I'm looking, the way I'm thinking about it is having individual conversations with each of you in the next couple weeks. And then, my next presentation is gonna be staff related, right? So it's just gonna continue and it's gonna link into the next core function area.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Very good. Everyone done? Thank you. And according to my agenda, that completes the departmental reports on the side of the administration.
Oh, I've got 5 more things. I'm kidding.
Ah, you're done. Police.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to thank the board for their time in executive session to discuss the personnel issues in the police department. Other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Well, we have an agenda item though. So you have to address the agenda item because it's posted on the agenda.
So we address the corporal promotion in executive session.
Okay.
We did, but the public has not been.
Well, that will be formally done.
Yeah, it'll be
We-
formally
Just say that we are looking to promote someone.
Yes,
to corporal.
we will be announcing a promotion shortly.
Very good. Thank you.
Action by the board at the business meeting in 2 weeks.
There we go. Now we got the whole thing there. Perfect. Thank you. The next item under departmental reports is public work.
Public Works information was submitted to the board. I just also wanted to remind the board that I've recently created a new folder on SharePoint where all monthly reports will be saved. So you're not going to be getting them individually from department heads. You'll go there and you'll find each one of them: Public Works, Parks and Rec, solicitors, engineers. They've been submitted.
Good, thank you. Solicitors report.
Thank you. In addition to the written solicitor's report, which was submitted at the beginning of the month, I would just supplement that by stating that I met with the chief last Thursday to discuss some thoughts and some issues that the police department's been having with the current township towing ordinance. I am drafting a potential update of that ordinance for the board to consider. That will be submitted to the township manager and the chief sometime in the next week for their comment and discussion before submission to the board, hopefully at the next public meeting.
Very good. Is there any questions in regards to the solicitor's report?
No.
No. All right. Next item on the agenda. Here's the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have our June reports. We're getting quite busy with planning commission meetings. Ryan, Janine, and myself and Matt are working on staggering a bunch of these projects coming up. Probably the biggest one is that you probably haven't seen or saw yet, seen or heard about yet, is Worldwide Stereo over on Manor Drive. That review will be going out here this week. That's for a combination office and new warehouse facility. So I'm not sure if there's any issues yet. There might be, so you might not see it until the zoning board case. But that's probably the biggest one. There's a couple smaller lot line changes, 3, 4. We're getting a lot of 3, 4, 5, 6 lot subdivisions coming in. Some of them, again, they think they can do something. The next thing you know, after they get an engineer review or have some discussion with staff, that it gets shrink down. But we have a couple of those coming up over the next month or two. And the only other addition to my report is there's a lot of back and forth about New Britain Woods dedication. The HOA has formed for a while now, but they have a management company. And we sent out our pre-dedication punch list. We stirred the residents up a little bit, thinking, oh my gosh, the job's done. And, you know, there's months and months and months. So Matt and I had a discussion. Janine's taking the brunt of most of that, but the New Britain Woods project should be dedicated. The roads are going to be owned by the township. So we'll go through that process at the end of the summer, probably. I talked to Toll Brothers. They're not in any hurry. It's just, you know, when people see a punch list, they think the job's over. There's a lot of work left to be done on the repairs and punch the site. So I'm only bringing that one up because I think you may hear about that from residents and they may come. And we'll get quite a bit of emails lately, but there's a good 3 or 4 months left at least before they dedicate, and it'll be in front of you to accept dedication and close out documents. So that's all I have.
Any comments or questions regarding the engineer's report? Any board comments this evening?
Yes, I have comments. And I apologize that at the last meeting, I was not fully awake or due to other issues. So I want to go back to the bingo. I thank Michael for all of his hard work in pulling that off. I'd also like to thank our 2 major sponsors, Begley Carlin and Gilmore, for their continuing, for their support of that event. And I think that is all I have.
Very good. Cynthia?
No, I have no comments at this time.
Very good. Mr. Jones?
No, at this point, thank you.
Steps?
Nothing at this point.
Very good. That ends board comments. Committee reports, Park and Rec.
All right, I got about another 30-minute report here.
Oh, don't you dare.
The Parks and Rec committee report has been saved in that same folder in SharePoint. I just wanted to mention that the tri-municipal parade preparations are well underway, and a memo was circulated to the board on Friday, specifically regarding refreshments post-parade. That is the Park and Rec board's recommendation is to forego refreshments at the end of the parade this year. And we're looking for board nodding that, yes, you concur, so we can communicate that to staff and parade participants.
I'm more interested in the bubble machine.
Yeah,
Yes, if we're providing them at the beginning of the parade,
yes, we are.
we can try that this year.
Yeah, we tried it last year also, and it seemed to work well. The issue that we had experienced that we talked about at a staff meeting today was related to lingering and breaking down outside here. And there was a veteran ceremony that was trying to take place, and it was rather distracting. So we're working on those details as well, just to try to be respectful to that, that ceremony that's happening.
Actually, can I bring up, since we all just talked about that the 4th of July parade is normally on the 4th of July, except when it's on a Sunday. Is there any way that we can have a discussion about whether we should really keep the 4th of July parade on the 4th of July? With the not the constraint, but with the idea that our staff, that is a US public holiday, but we make our staff work on the 4th of July and then have to pick another day for our staff to have the township closed down. Is there, I don't know, I want to have that sort of discussion about whether we should keep it on the 4th or
Well,
move
you-
it to
You
something
never
else.
move the Memorial Day parade to the day after Memorial Day, so.
No. Well-
So it's a 4th of July
Okay.
parade.
Well, maybe
Who
we should,
attend, expect to attend
On
on
the
the 4th
Yeah.
4th of July.
well, other places don't have their 4th of July parade on the 4th of July. So I'm just saying, should we have that discussion
Hopefully
about
they
where
do.
we should put that other holiday? I don't know, just since we had that issue last year.
If I could be clear too, that staff does not take an additional holiday.
Well, I thought we had the place closed down for another day.
No,
Okay,
so
that's what we
staff
did
is
last year.
expected to work on a holiday.
I hate to hear myself say this, but the way it's always been done seems to be the way it should continue to be
Okay.
done. Only this time, only this time do I ever agree with that statement.
No, I did thought the township closed for another day, gave them a day. with
Whenever
some
the
other plan.
official day is that the feds observe the 4th of July, then that's typically when that's when they're
But they're
closed.
here working because that's the
Right, but-
parade.
Yeah, but that's the parade if it's
Right.
the day
If it's
that's,
a day, yeah, if it's not a Saturday or Sunday.
Right, well, Sunday. Sundays are a
Sunday,
critical thing.
right.
okay. So it'll only happen on the Sundays.
Yeah.
Okay.
We kind of like the 4th of July parade on
I
On
the
the
get that.
4th.
July. Nothing against the staff, but
I just don't think you're gonna get participants and residents as excited about it the weekend before or the weekend after.
I was thinking of the weekend, whatever the weekend is of that.
Not only that,
Yeah.
but most people have off, well, not most people, a majority of people have off on the 4th.
Fourth.
They may not have off on the 5th.
Okay,
So,
Or the 3rd.
or the 3rd, yeah. So you
Whatever.
run into a reverse issue there. So. It's a good idea. I mean,
well, maybe it's
not
the,
discounting it entirely, but I think
Yeah.
it's worked for 200 and some odd years.
well, maybe next time it falls on a Sunday, we need to be a little bit more proactive the year before.
We've
to
had it.
work out.
we've had a parade every July 4th in Burton
Yes.
Township for 200 some
Well,
years. Is that what you're
just-
telling me? Okay.
Just when it falls on a
I
Sunday,
would approve
because
of that.
didn't we move it last year because it was on a Sunday? We moved it to the 3rd.
That's because of the church.
But see, we should forethink that. That's all I'm saying is think about before that actually happens, because we had to scramble
Well, yeah.
for other things.
Yeah, that
So
was
the
that was
thing. So,
Well, that was the past practice. We're a
So-
little more forward planning this.
yeah.
I think
Alright.
Matt's got
Okay,
when the next
Kendall,
July
let's
3rd
go.
parade's gonna be already on the calendar, so.
Yeah.
All good?
Moving on. Oh,
Yeah.
no, we haven't gotten to the other issue.
The Bucks Bubbles truck,
Is this something new or is that one that goes around blowing
I
bubbles?
think it's the same one.
Yeah,
but
you
they
can
wanted
rent
to
for
be in the
parties.
Parade,
Yeah.
and so the Parks and Rec Board said, well, look, we're not allowed, we recommend that participants don't
Yeah.
throw candy. How can we be having foam being sprayed during a parade and
Yeah.
inviting kids to come into the street to have a good time? Nor did we find it would be a good idea to have them after the event, if we're trying to have a veteran ceremony, didn't think that would be the most appropriate. So we're trying to get them to come for Fall Fest and thought that maybe that would be the most appropriate venue for them.
And they could be in the parade,
Yeah,
not
right.
spraying the.
Right. They can be there. just don't spray
Again,
the foam.
I like the way it has been. We still throw candy, do we not?
I think.
No,
pass
walking
out
hands
candy.
out.
Pass, not throw. We pass out candy. Okay.
Listen to what she's saying.
We pass out candy.
Walking along the side.
Right, right. We,
So they're not walking in the streets to collect it.
I'm not hearing any words that are coming out of anybody's mouth.
my mistake, we pass out candy, but we've always had the bubble truck. I don't recall any incidents. Why?
We've
Is
never
it the
had-
place?
No, we've never had the
Never
bubble.
had the
bubble
Never
truck.
had a bubble.
But that's what I said. I thought it was the car that blew bubbles.
No, no,
That's the one
no.
that squirts water.
No, this
Okay.
one is like foam party.
Oh, no, no,
Yeah,
no. Oh,
this is-
okay.
Yes.
So we've never had that before.
No.
Yeah.
this
Okay,
is
Yeah.
that was what I said first. Is that the one we've
If it
always
was
had? And you
midnight,
said-
it would be day glow and there'd be people dancing in it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Okay,
something
all right,
different.
something different. I'm thinking of something else. Yeah.
From the pictures that they gave, I think it would be a much better place to have it at Fall Fest.
Yeah.
They would get many more people seeing it and interacting with it and remembering it. So I think
Okay.
that would be the better place to have it. And I think that was what the Park and Rec sort of came forward with, was that it would be a
Okay.
better place.
I just
Yeah.
want to say a special shout out to Shel Clancy, who is the parade organizer extraordinaire. And she puts a lot of blood, sweat and tears into it. And
It's a lot of work.
hats off. Yes, it is.
Yes.
Which brings up the title of the parade,
To be continued.
to be continued. Well,
I
New
have
Britain
nothing-
Township does all the planning.
I have,
But it's still tri-municipal. It starts at one, goes to another. and
we
comes back.
are discussing those things internally at the staff level, and I'm not in a position to have a discussion with the board now. I would expect in 2 weeks it might come up.
Okay, I've had comments from quite a few people who have suggested an alternate parade route down 202 throughout New Britain Township, but
You can't get from anywhere without going through one of the boroughs.
Yeah.
You cannot get to the township building on 202 without going.
I
through
forget
the borough.
their plan, but it did enter into Chalfont Borough, but it just was like, like,
It's
well,
impossible.
that's a subject for other discussion.
Well, something that I've been talking about with staff and the other municipalities are that, we need to reevaluate the way things have been done. To the point that came up earlier, just the way things have been done isn't necessarily the best way forward. And so I have proposed to the other participating municipalities to please document the costs, expenses, staff time involved in organizing this parade. And we're going to have a post-parade event to talk about the sharing of those duties. The costs of the contributions for the other municipalities have not changed since the beginning of time. And I don't believe it best represents the true costs to running a parade. I also like the idea of having a shared responsibility. If it is truly a tri-municipal parade, each municipality should take a year and take the lion's share, take the reins and organize it. Because it takes a boatload of staff time, of my staff time, that we don't have to develop and run this parade. And so I would appreciate, I'm not saying that that's the path we're going, but we need to continue to reevaluate these things and have open and honest discussions and put a true cost to these things. There's a value to having a parade. I am not an anti-parade person. I think that, I'm not saying that do away with the parade. No, the parade is valuable. It is a really good outward facing public participation tool. So I just think we need to make sure that we're defining it correctly and allocating enough resources equally.
All right, very good.
This is my voice.
Is there any public comment this evening?
Yeah.
Yes, this is the time at which public can comment.
Yeah.
You said no.
Hour and 35 minutes, you finally get your award. If you could please give your name and address.
I'm Larry Jones.
Yeah.
Even though there's two Joneses.
3733 Creek Road, Doylestown, right across from Peace Valley Park.
hence our concern. So,
We just want to quickly revisit something we proposed, brought up to the township and then to PennDOT regarding, and for overall, the safety on creek roads along the lake. We do live there, and please, not a NIMBYs type of thing. If you're familiar with Creek Road, it's a 25-mile-an-hour road. It's narrow. There are no shoulders on that road, and there is no stop or slow down from Callow Hill all the way to the end of the park, where it turns back up on Old Lime Kiln.
which is about 2 miles.
That road, especially what we feel, we've lived there now 6 years, 7 years, right on Creek. Especially with the pandemic, it seems also that the lake, Peace Valley Park, has been more discovered and is more used by the public. But it receives a lot more traffic. People drive at a high speed. Some people, but you have also, many people are biking on that road, they're jogging on that road, walking, and.
And the deer.
And the deer.
But, so we had suggested that it would be wise, a safety measure, to have stop signs added at the intersection of Creek Road and Old Iron Hill. Possibly one at the main boat dock, which is parking field number 2, and maybe even at Cheese Factory Road. Otherwise, it is like a freeway from Callow Hill, even further past Callow, but all the way to the end of the park. So ultimately, we felt that it's a real safety.
Something to look at. And so we had emailed back and forth with the township a few years ago. Cynthia, you have the dates of the email, and then somehow PennDOT too. And PennDOT had suggested that they would do a study, but they won't do a study because the Joneses asked. They would do a study if the township asked to have a study done. So hence we're here asking. We had forwarded that information about 2 years ago, and COVID and all that. So now we're asking, can you do that? Can you have a study done?
I'm going to, Craig's looking at his phone. I'm hoping he's looking at Creek Road and everything so that he
Whether
can.
it's a township, when you said PennDOT,
Yeah.
well, how was PennDOT involved?
It's a township road, so it would be us
Yep.
doing the stuff.
Right, so
Yes.
what we would do the study, but then it would have to still meet PennDOT standards for whether or not a stop sign can go in.
You're trying-
PennDOT says they gave you a case number and everything, right? I don't know if you know.
Yeah, it has a concern number,
A concern number.
and it was done, you did this in January of 2021.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the response now.
Yeah, I had forwarded this information on to Matt and to Chief Clouser this morning so that they would have the information.
And according to the email from PennDOT, they have agreed to do a traffic study on a township road. So
Hey.
we're going to send a letter to support that. If they're gonna do that work, we'll do it. So sorry it took so long to get a response, but it's, you know.
I would-
And a lot of
few things.
changes.
God bless them if they're gonna do it, but they may figure out that, oops, it's not their road. But we still follow their standards. Chief can chime in, but one of the things, Lisa, mine in the engineering end is you don't add stop signs to slow down traffic. That's not, PennDOT will not approve that. Now, if it makes a logical sense, that's fine. Just because there's an intersection does not mean you start putting three-way stops everywhere. And I've been through that numerous times in numerous municipalities now. There's warrants, there's all kinds of stuff that Chief and PennDOT, and I'll get involved in, but with the study, PennDOT, if they get involved at all, that is not a reason. So if they call you or you're involved, you say, hey, we want to slow down speeding, they just don't throw up stop signs. That's,
What do they do?
What do you do?
you evaluate, well, in this case, I think you said it's 25 miles an hour.
Yes.
Yeah, you look at traffic calming, you look at other measures, there's other measures they have, I'm not going to get into tonight, I'm not traffic engineer, but that is one thing that they frown upon. What you also have is people doing slow, cheap bike. In that area, I take that road, not every time, but for when a scenic drive, coming back from work, everybody will just roll right through those type of stop signs. And then they'll speed up to get to the next stop sign and they slow down, so.
But there are none.
What?
There are none.
There are
no
none.
stop signs.
There's nothing.
Correct, I'm saying when you add them, that's
Oh.
is a call, is an effect as well, so. But if they agree to look at it, then that's a good first start.
It's a lot more nuanced than, I guess what Craig's trying to say is like, don't get so wedded to the idea of installing a stop sign and having that as a magic bullet to stop speeding. It's a lot more nuanced than that. And I know Chief Clouser and I will talk about this and talk with our township engineer about other avenues that we can take. Maybe it comes back and it doesn't warrant a stop sign, but what can we do from an enforcement angle? Maybe it's a dedicated enforcement strategy for that stretch of road. I don't know. There are other avenues that we can explore in coordination with our police department to identify the good solutions.
And they used to sit on that quite a bit.
We've not in 7 years.
Well, no, I-
Somebody
well,
came to our house once, a police officer, and we said, why don't you come sit in
Sit in
our
our
driveway,
driveway.
please?
And you'll see
Have at it.
You're welcome to sit in our driveway all day long.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things what we'll do is we will do our own analysis of it. We have some devices we can put out to collect data. And we'll collect data, see when the specific, speeding is occurring, and then we can assign resources that way. I mean, throughout the township, we get these types of complaints and we have to make sure we're addressing it with proper resources and not just, having a knee-jerk reaction. I understand it's important to you and it's important to us too, that everybody's safe. But we have some work to do there and collect some data and verify what's going on.
And I realize, stop sign may not be the right answer. That's
We just wanted to bring it to your attention and follow up on it.
And it's not just because we live there, we use the road, we run jog bike. And it's like, kind of hate to say, it's an accident waiting to happen because of the recreational services that's parked in the lake. It's a beautiful place that people use. And
So if you look at it, that's what we asked.
That's all.
We
Well,
will.
thank you for bringing it to our attention. Thank you for coming out, and we will do everything we can to look at the issue, and hopefully PennDOT won't
Decide not.
decide not
Won't
to do
realize.
it.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're
Well-
not reviewing this meeting's recording.
It's not a state road, just like 202 is not a township road. So there's different, PennDOT takes care of the state roads, the township takes care of township roads. But like many of the roads in our township, they're narrow, they're windy, and but it's speeding and crazy driving are have really is always an issue, not only in that area, but in lots of other areas as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Yeah, my name's Larry Garino. I live at 14 Limekiln Road. I actually came here just to observe, but since I'm here, I do have a question. On our road, the Galena Reserve project, they tore down the mobile home park. I haven't seen anything. I'm not actually sure what's been approved by the town and so on, if somebody could enlighten me.
Now they just kind of disappeared. I haven't seen a plan, they disappeared.
I mean, they tore all the house, they tore all the old mobile
Oh,
homes.
yeah, they started up and then they just disappeared. The applicant wasn't even local, it was.
Right.
And.
They came in with some
it's not
plan
even
that
on my
was,
4-page engineering
Yeah, they
report.
wanted to put, I mean, I wasn't averse to the
They were gonna
layout
clean it
that they
up,
were
yeah.
saying. I mean, those are really old trailers.
It could have been back to the water and sewer issue. They didn't, I don't believe.
there's no
There's
water
not-
line.
There's nothing up there.
There's nothing up there.
And we don't want to pay for it.
They were told they were gonna have a water line down Ferry Road. They connect to the authority. Either, I don't know what the issue is.
They backed out or delayed it for some reason.
All right.
No.
But my other reason for being here is 26 years in the town, haven't been to a town board meeting, recently retired. Trying to figure out what's going on here.
Very good.
Yeah,
Welcome.
thank you. Please
Thank
come
you.
back.
Yes, hopefully you found this very informative.
I was driving up there a few months back, and it just is a very weird
Well, there's
place because there's roads, but there's nothing there, and there's lots of feral cats running around, and
Well, this year you actually, I believe the township owns it into the park. Because your road crews were up there, they paved. I mean, the road was all washed out as you started
Yeah.
down the hill into the park.
And we pave
You
up
couldn't
to,
even, I don't know how anybody could even drive down that to that house. Like a-
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Hoping nothing's coming the other way and pulling off into
No,
the
most
ditch.
most
if
cars
there is.
turn around in my driveway, so I get a lot of traffic. I can do a traffic count.
Very good. Is there,
Okay.
oops, sorry.
I was just gonna say, there's one last.
Is there any other public comment? Yeah.
He's here because he's, I'm doing a Boy Scout thing, so I have 2 merit badges, which is communications and citizenship of the community. I only have, that's it actually, yeah, because I just finished up family life. So if I finish my Eagle Scout before July 1st, I don't have to do an extra merit badge, so I'm kind of like, there's a requirement for communication. I have to sit into a meeting, I have to observe. It's basically like, I like to put it as communications is I was observing like the style of how everything was said, and citizenship in the community, I'm observing the substance, so what the actual issues are and everything. So that's why I was here tonight.
Well, you picked the right meeting for that.
Yeah, you picked a good one for that.
What,
Did you get a
team
name?
were you with?
Yeah, what's your name?
I'm Tom Dutil, but my troop is actually Troop 3 in Happero, because we moved out from there. So, but that was my brother's troop, and I actually went over. So even though we moved, I kept staying with them. So
Okay.
Very cool. Well, good luck with going forward. Yeah, very cool. Mr. Mike? Do we have any observers?
they went to
None.
sleep.
Is there, before I do my normal announcement, and every time I do my normal announcement, you say, wait, hold on, there's one more thing.
There is one more thing. I don't have anything else.
Okay.
Good answer.
Very good. All right. Just before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I'm going to make the following announcement. The next meeting of the Board of Supervisors of New Britain Township will take place on Monday, June 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. here at the Township Building. The agenda and meeting materials will be posted on the Township website prior to the meeting date at newbrittaintownship.org. As well as that, tonight's meeting, goodness gracious, will be available on the Township's YouTube page within the next 24 to 36 hours. And upon those announcements, I will now take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you all very much for
Thank
attending
you
this
all.
evening.
Thank you.